Hello and welcome to Warp Factor Unknown, the podcast where we delve into the world of Star Trek for an unpredictable rewatch and discussion. I'm your host Dan, and joining me today is a guest co-host, a warp field theorist, Jacob.
That's a good one. Yeah, so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on. So my name's Jacob. I'm a doctor in physics, so this is going to make things a bit more interesting on the discussion. So I've known you for years. Mostly a decade or so, right?
Yeah, we go way back to school.
Yeah.
So let's hope we get like an episode with lots of techie tech and techno babble that Jacob can point at. And
Star Trek does a pretty good job at making it sound realistic, so I don't have complaints, but it depends what season we see. So.
Yeah. So, before we really kick off, Tom is not here today, so what we're going to do, this episode of Warp Factor Unknown is going to be a bonus episode. And obviously there's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is we have a guest Jacob. We don't have Tom around, he's on holiday. And the other reason is because of where this is fallen within our recording schedule, we haven't got an episode of Star Trek lined up ready to watch, as we normally do. So we're going to change the format around a little bit. We're going to select the episode in a minute. We'll take a break in the middle of the podcast, and we'll come back and do the main discussion afterwards. So yeah, a little bit of a change of format. So it's going to be a bonus episode. First of all, we'll start off talking with Jacob about him and Star Trek. So Jacob, bit of an open forum, open stage. Have a few minutes, just talk to us about you, Star Trek, maybe how you got into the series, maybe what parts of Star Trek you love or don't love. Open platform.
So, for me, like, my very earliest memories of watching Star Trek, I was a kid at my dad's place, and must have been, Christmas time or something, very young, maybe 14 or whatever, and I remember seeing, particularly Star Trek Nemesis on I guess ITV, whatever, and I don't remember ever seeing the full thing. It's just at the end, Act 3 is very memorable.
It's very action heavy.
Yeah. It's memorable. I think it's also because the stylistic choice they use, the background in space, it's all colours, and then the ship's interesting.
They're like a nebula, aren't they?
Yeah. So, and then of course, then Data dies and all that. So it's very spoilers. Yeah. But he's not dead. But
more spoilers.
That sticks out in my mind. And then I also was thinking earlier today, before we began this, what other of those 4 films have I seen? Definitely hadn't seen Insurrections, the third one.
That's the third one, yeah.
Yeah, didn't see that one ever until I had watched, we'll get on to later. And then the first one was, what was the first film? That was...
So you have Generations.
That's the one where Kirk,
Kirk.
Yeah, that's the Kirk one. Again, I think vaguely bits and pieces here and there, but not seen it properly. And then First Contact had definitely seen that one, again, more to the end. But it's what you had on TV at the time as I was a kid. So, and then after that, still as a kid, it's from my dad, he put it on, was Voyager. But all I remember of that is the opening credits, which is incredible.
They are
good and the music, right? It was great. So, that's probably a decade ago, right? And so, or more, probably.
Yeah, I'm about to say
15 years.
A bit more than a decade ago.
Probably about 15 years ago. So then, coming up to recently, COVID happened, right? And we're all stuck inside. So I decided, maybe I'll watch Star Trek. So Dan here had already introduced me briefly to one episode of TNG, which he said was his favourite, which was Darmok.
It is my favourite.
Awful. It is an awful episode. It's not the best episode ever. And so that put me off, and so I didn't watch it, even though he tried to get me to. But I got you to watch Stargate, which is what I was more interested in.
Yeah, we're not going to debate it here, but I would defend this hill that Darmok is actually a great episode of Star Trek. But we won't do that now.
If it comes up, I'm going to be really annoyed.
I'll be really happy.
And then you did introduce me to Firefly, which was great.
Yeah.
But then, of course, sometime, eventually, I was like, fine, I'll listen to Dan here, and I'll watch TNG.
Did you start with Series 1 episode, or did you start from that?
Very first one, right? And I knew, it was going to be bad. It was going to be rough. And it was. So, started TNG, watched it all through, pretty much, 5 or 6 episodes every day. We're talking about March 2020, right?
Yeah.
A lot of time. got through it all. I love TNG. That was great. So when they sorted their stuff out, because like season 1 and season 2, oh boy.
It's got some good moments, but yeah, it's not. It's still finding its feet.
It's only when it gets to, they introduce the Borg, right? That's when it's like
Okay, yeah. So what? Like,
Yeah.
best of both worlds, yeah.
yeah, that's when it's really good, and it's such a jump. It's such a jump, like in quality. Like it really sort of it just clicked for them. I didn't understand. It was really came out of nowhere as well. So that's probably one of my favourite episodes for sure. Is the
So best of both worlds is where all sort of like invade Battle of War 359.
yeah Battle of War 359.
But it's the Q episode where Q swings them.
Oh yeah, sorry, no,
wherever.
yeah, not that episode. That's nice. It's a nice episode. I thought that was a very good one because it sort of it shows you like, oh, Q is just what is he up to, and you don't really know, and then it's like, oh, you get introduced to the Borg.
Yeah.
But then when the Borg invade and it's Battle of War 359 and it's Cutus,
Yeah.
that's very good. That's a really good two-parter. So then, of course, after TNG, I then, because of my father, I remember Voyager. And I remembered it fondly. So I did Voyager next. Right? I liked it a lot. The best bit generally is the opening credits.
Yeah.
With the music, that's the best bit. And then I went on to DS9. I think at the time, I think I talked to you about it, I was like, I prefer Voyager, but I hadn't got to DS9 yet.
Yeah.
And then I got to DS9, and I was like, Jesus, what is Dan on about saying DS9's better? Season 1 to 3 was...
Again, it's got some good episodes, got some good moments. But yeah, DS9 really comes to its own when the Dominion really get going and really kicks off.
Yeah, I agree. And that final season, the lead up to that final season, is fantastic. And Gul Dukat is the best villain there is.
Yeah, he is.
Just period.
Yeah, he's just good. Like Marco Amo just kills it.
He's not dead, is he? He's still alive, I
no,
think.
he's still alive. Yeah, the actor's still alive.
I thought he died recently, but... Yeah, so that's my Star Trek experience. Oh, and of course afterwards, after TNG, of course, I watched the movies.
Yeah.
So
have you seen like a lot of the newer shows like Discovery and Picard, Strange New Worlds? Have you seen all of that stuff?
So I was super excited when they announced that they were going to do a Picard TV show, and I think that was... When was that announced? In 2020 or something?
Oh, I don't know.
But I'd watched then all of the series. I'd done TNG, TS9 and Voyager, and then I was like, okay, they're going to do Picard and all these new shows, and I was like, ooh, interesting. And then I started watching Picard season 1. I get to episode 1. It's okay. And I get to episode 2. It's just going bad. 3, even worse. 4, I gave up because it was far too boring. And it wasn't Star Trek for me.
Ooh,
yeah.
Controversial. So, okay, so you've seen a little bit of that. How about Discovery? Seen any Discovery?
No.
Awful. No. Have you watched like season 1 and anything like that?
No, so the thing is I was quite heavily influenced by the Red Letter Media, this YouTube channels. They're very good stuff. They're very funny. They did review on Discovery in the season 1 and 2. Generally, I tend to listen to them because they do... I think they express themselves as that we are very purists to Star Trek, as in, less so original series, but more TNG, DS9, Voyager is their sort of more wheelhouse. Like this is real Star Trek, real Trek. And so they don't particularly like the newer stuff, and I tend to agree with them on that. I align on that side.
So, that's interesting. So I mentioned to you the other day that I've said on this podcast a few times, I've been watching all of Star Trek along with a podcast for Gene Roddenberry, a Star Trek podcast. So Mission Log, a Star Trek podcast. And they've changed hosts. Now, there were 2 hosts originally, one of them changed out. And that he changed during DS9 because his first love was the original series. And in the original series, I don't know if you've ever seen it, the episodes tend to have a very strong moral message. Each episode is like, don't be a bully sort of thing. It's like, it's really on the head, on the nose kind of message. And that carries through into Next Gen. You can normally pick out a message or a theme or a moral. But then when they watched DS9, the host, he kept bringing up how he didn't like how there wasn't that sort of on-the-nose message in a lot of the episodes. He didn't quite like where it was going. And I think that was partly why he left the podcast. But yeah, so for him, DS9, in quotes, wasn't Star Trek. And it's kind of, it's like he's a generation probably above us.
Yeah.
And now you're sort of saying...
Could be a generational
thing. You're sort of saying the same thing about, from a 90s Trek. That's the true Trek. but the new stuff isn't. So yeah, I wonder if we'll get in like 20 years to be a group of people, the generation below us, will be like, no, Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Picard. That's my Trek. The new Trek we're doing now in 2045. No, that's awful.
But the thing is, I do like Lower Decks. I think it's silly. Like, for Star Trek, it's maybe a bit too silly for Star Trek. Like, there was that episode at the start of season 3, I think, where Boimler? I can't pronounce his name. Boimler, yeah. Boimler. It's when the Cerritos was all split up because the captain was under trial.
That was it, yeah.
Because they thought she had killed the
Packlids?
The Packlids' home planet, yeah, with a bomb or something.
Packlid planet.
Yeah, Packlid planet. And so they're all split up, and then they go to get him, and he's just in a vineyard, and then he's like,
yeah.
All of the girls are like, oh, Boimler, don't leave us. And I was like, this is so stupid. This is not Star Trek.
So, for me, I describe Lower Decks as, it's Star Trek, and it makes fun of Star Trek, but it loves Star Trek. It knows Star Trek to its core, and it can make the jokes at the right places, at the right sort of tone. It doesn't mock it, but no, it understands it. And yeah, I really appreciate it.
I agree. I would agree with that. Like, there was another episode the same season where they do DS9, and they bring in, what's her name, Nina
Vista?
Yeah.
Vista, yeah.
And, is it Armin?
Armin Shimmerman,
yeah. They bring the two in, the voice actors, and the characters are there, and I was like, this is really good.
They get it.
And I also enjoyed why they were just like, oh yeah, the Bajoran guy who's on the Cerritos just knows her. They've always known her. It's just...
Well, actually, because Mariner, at some point she said that she served, before the Cerritos, she served on DS9 during the Dominion War. So she's there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's kind of, we never see her on the show, obviously, but somewhere in the background, she's there, and she knows all these people. Okay, great. Good to have that little chatter before we start off. Now we obviously have to select an episode for us to watch, and the way this is going to work, the same as always, we have our 13 shows to choose from.
Well, I've got to guess them first.
Oh, okay, you want to do that? Yeah,
I want to guess them.
Sure, okay, fine. So
because, again, I don't watch New Trek.
We're going to quiz...
Which ones can I get?
We're going to quiz Jacob on how many of the 13 shows, according to Warp Factor Unknown, are in our rewatch. Go ahead.
TNG, DS9, and Voyager.
Yeah.
I mean, those are obvious. Original series.
Yeah.
Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I only realised this morning. I forgot about Enterprise.
One of my loves, my guilty pleasures.
I hate it. The only good episode is, the only good ones are the ones towards the end. Picard, I did say Picard.
No,
that's 8.
I don't think you did, yeah.
That's 8. There was that weird cartoon with Janeway. What's it called? Prodigy.
Prodigy, yep.
And I think that's all I can remember. Oh, well, we're including the films as one, right?
We're not including the films.
Not going to include the films.
Not going to include the films.
Okay. So what's the other...
So you are missing the animated series, which is the original series, but in a cartoon from the 70s. You've also got Strange New Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
With Captain Pike and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we include on our watches the Star Trek shorts and the Star Trek very shorts.
Okay.
Which I think if there were other people doing a similar podcast, they might not include those, but we do. We can make our own rules. So that's the 13.
Okay.
Yeah. Jacob, is there anything you would actually want to see or not want to see?
Okay, so I would like to see any TNG, really, apart from the Beverly Crusher episode, where she fucks a ghost.
So even Darmok?
And no, not Darmok. DS9, Voyager, all good stuff. I've never seen original series, and I've never seen any of Prodigy, and I've never seen any of these shorts. Same with... Picard, I've not seen season 3.
Yeah.
Picard season 3, actually...
Yeah, could be good.
Could be good, because again, from Red Letter Media, they said it was good.
So would you prefer to watch something you've already seen before, or something you've not seen before?
Yeah, so that's a good question, actually. I would quite like to do Picard season 3.
Oh,
that's definitely up there. Obviously, a random episode. Let's do the last one.
Yeah, that's what we got. We got We got the season final of Discovery season 3.
Oof.
Yeah, and like, it's kind of great, but it also kind of wasn't.
Yeah.
For me, I would just like any episode of Star Trek which has, I'm going to say, a strong moral dilemma. Something for us to get to grips with a little bit. So something not light-hearted. So as much as I love Lower Decks, maybe not Lower Decks, or not one of the more light-hearted comedic episodes, like the baseball episode from DS9. You know, it's a great episode, but maybe not.
I can't remember that one.
Oh, they play baseball for an episode.
But I was thinking if it's Lower Decks, then at least you just spend the entire time watching it and picking out what you think's the most Trekky about it and what's not. Season 4 of Lower Decks is out now, isn't it?
Yes.
Which I've not watched and not been able to watch, so that would also be one to...
That'd be good, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go very, very much in favour of those two, I think.
The way our episode selection works, we take those 13 shows, we randomly select one, and then once we've got that episode, we will then go down and, like, for example, if we get Next Generation, that has 7 series, we will then roll 1 out of 7, pick a series, and then from there, we select an episode. If we hit a 2-parter, we always watch both parts, but if we get a show like Picard or Discovery, which has long story arcs, we don't. We just go in and watch it in the middle, and if for some reason somehow we end up hitting the same episode we've already seen before, we will essentially flip a coin. Heads we go up an episode, tails we go down an episode. So far not happened.
I mean, there's a lot of content out there.
There's about 900 episodes.
Probability of you hitting the same episode again.
It will happen. It might happen. You have to have these rules in place just in case.
How many seasons will it take to get there of this podcast? 6.
Well, I don't know. We'll, maybe we'll celebrate when we do. We're now going to spin for the show to watch. Out of 13, here we go. Picard.
It's Picard!
It's Picard. Great. And now we just need to get season 3 to make you happy.
Season 3 would be brilliant.
Or maybe we'll get season 1, episode 1, and you'll be really unhappy.
Yeah,
or episode 4 where you quit.
No, the worst one will be season finale. Episode finale of season 1.
Yeah.
Lex has a tentacle monster coming out. That would be the worst.
That would be the worst. So now we're going to roll for the series. Out of 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Okay, let's spin the wheel.
Series 1.
Damn it.
It could be great. Actually, I think this could be good because it might end up being a redemption for you. It might actually no, it's alright. It's got some things for it.
Fucking hate it.
Okay, yeah. I have no idea how many episodes are in season
8.
1. There are 10 episodes, with the final being a 2-parter.
Okay.
I believe it's a 2-parter. But I'll have to check that won't be... Yeah, it is a 2-parter. Let's spin the wheel. Out of 10. Let's spin. That's clunky. We're keeping it in. Go for it. Spin.
Keep it in. Right, okay, let's spin.
8.
Which one's episode 8?
Well, third to last. Let's find out.
Which one's episode 8? Let's go have a watch.
It is called Broken Pieces. So I'll just go find a synopsis.
Awful.
Now, I can't really remember Picard's 2. I saw it when it first came out.
That's a sign.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I love all Star Trek. I love some Star Trek more than others. But even what you might say, I hate Picard, I don't. I liked it. So Picard, Series 1, Episode 8, Broken Pieces. When devastating truths behind the Mars attack are revealed, Picard realizes just how far many will go to preserve secrets stretching back generations. All while, La Serena's crew grapples with secrets and revelations of their own. Narissa directs her guards to capture Elnor, setting off an unexpected chain of events on the Borg cube.
Oh, this sounds so bad.
What sounds bad about that?
That sounds so bad. Hang on. The Mars attack.
So how much do you know about this Mars attack and the Borg cube and stuff?
There's the androids do a thing, and then, but I thought that was season 2 was with the Borg cube stuff. I don't remember anymore.
Actually, so this might be one of my favourite things about Series 1, which you'll see hopefully in this episode. In Series 1, the Borg cube, I think it's in the Battle of 4359, or a Borg cube that was sort of taken down in the Alpha Quadrant. I'm pretty sure it was the Vulcans and the Romulans. Somebody. A coalition.
They invented the Borg!
No, it's not that. There's this broken Borg cube, and they're salvaging it. And they're studying it. And it's there in space, it's got like a science department, it's fantastic.
That's the one with Hugh, right?
Yeah, it got Hugh on there. But I think that might be the episode before when Hugh's introduced.
And then he dies. Spoilers.
Spoilers, he does die. Yeah, we don't care about spoilers on this podcast.
Well, I mean, if you're reviewing a thing and we can't say spoilers.
But I mean, like, even like, so when we talk about like a Next Generation episode, we will happily talk about Picard or Discovery or whatever. We don't mind breaking the
I would
timelines.
say if you've not seen Picard, don't, so.
I would. But yeah, so that's really cool about having the Borg cube. Yeah, so you seem really excited about this.
I was very excited to spin Picard.
Yeah.
And now I'm very angry that we have to watch season 1.
So yeah, I think just sort of go with an open mind. Like, don't go in with it just, I'm going to just tear this thing apart. Try and find the good parts if you can. If you can't, that's fine. I'll happily sit here and listen to you rant.
I might rant about how poorly written it is.
Yeah, okay.
Because the thing is with Picard is it could be good, but I just think it's poorly written, like story-wise. It's just like, oh, we got to do this atypical sci-fi thing, and then it's, oh, coincidentally it does this thing, and then this thing, and it's like, it's not coherent enough. Like, there's too many storylines going on. Like, you already said, there's a Borg cube, then there's also androids and a Mars attack, and then there's also going to be, like, at the end, doesn't the fleet come and fight the Romulans? Like, you've got all 3 things in there, and it's one season. Like, why is he not just focusing on the cube?
I will agree, but I felt, particularly season 1, I think the threat, the problem they're trying to solve, was a little too big. I think the story should have been a bit more personal to Picard, a bit more low stakes, if that makes sense, in terms of a galaxy. And I also think that it would have been better if all 3 series had been like one like long continuous story.
Yeah.
As opposed to it's kind of 3 separate stories for each season. But
But this is what I heard about season 3 though. It's like, so this is the biggest criticism of Picard. Is like, why is Picard doing actiony things when he is basically a politician? I mean, it's the same with the films, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I'm going to rope swing across a Borg-infested Enterprise, and it's like, no.
I mean, the movies make sense because it's movies.
Yeah, sure, but like at the same time, it's like, this is not what it's about. Like, quick tangent, right?
Here we go.
Did you know, who's the actress who's Beverly Crusher? What's her name?
Gates McFadden.
Gates McFadden, right? Do you know why she came back to do Picard season 3?
Money. No idea.
No, because she was actually going to have acting opportunity. Because there was an emotional depth and character to play. Because what she was really annoyed by with the films was that she was just a piece of ass.
To be fair, I think most of the cast, of the main TNG cast, got that apart from Picard and Data on the movies.
But Riker would be fine, right? Riker's, that's what Riker does.
No, but I mean, like, so a lot of the characters, they didn't get as many speaking lines or as many subplots as you might think for TNG movies. The movies are primarily around Picard and Data for the most part.
But then I think Gates McFadden did say that in Insurrection, she got like 2 lines of dialogue.
Quite possible. But again, that would have been the same for like Geordi and Worf, and like none of them really got much.
I would be interested to rewatch that, because I only learnt about this when, again, watching a review for Picard Season 3, when it was mentioned in there, and I was like, ooh, that would be really interesting to rewatch.
Yeah.
For another episode.
Yeah, for another episode.
But
yeah.
No.
Well, anyway, how this is going to work now, we are now going to take a break. We're going to pause the podcast. We'll come back and have our main body of discussion, or our main body of rant, we'll say, maybe. So yeah, please also yourselves go away, watch the episode if you want to, and then we'll come back and we'll finish off this chat about Picard, Series 1, Episode 8, Broken Pieces. Okay everyone, we're back. We've gone away and we watched our episode of Picard, and hopefully you've gone away and watched it too. And we're going to come back to you now with our thoughts and feelings. I have got plenty of notes. I can see over there. Jacob even got even more plenty of notes.
4 pages.
Yeah, but you kind of was like jotting down the episode as you went. You sort of did like a little summary as you was going.
Yeah, so So, just point out, we watched it twice.
We did watch it twice.
First time was just to remind myself, because I've never seen this episode, and I knew of the vagueness of the plot. The second time was then to make proper notes.
Yeah.
But one thing I found is that I dotted down certain things the first time, with more detailed notes the next time, but the notes I'd already made previously I could follow. I was like, I know exactly where I am in the episode.
Do you know, and while you was, during the first episode of the first watch of the episode, I thought I could see you jotting down. I was like, that is a man who has definitely gone through university a few times. And like, he's really, really good at note taking. And because I did some little notes as I was going on in that first watch, but my notes was like a random word here. It was like a few little disjointed thoughts. Yes, obviously I've not had that note taking experience that you have, Jacob.
You know, I'll be honest, during university I never made note taking during lectures. A lot of the time it came in the revision after the fact, like because I was lazy.
Yeah.
But here it's more of like, understand the plot going through, because like, if you know what's coming next, then I can think about a bit more of the nuance.
Yeah.
Like, so I have to say, just general thoughts.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, I preferred watching it the second time. Which was weird, because I wasn't expecting it, but there were certain things that I liked better. We'll get into the nitty-gritty later, but maybe just to round that point off, I'd never watch it again.
Well, so, and that's kind of the thing when you sort of, when we've been doing these episodes and we've got, like, Discovery, for example, you're never just going to pull out one random episode of Discovery that I'm going to watch now. You'll watch a whole series or watch a whole show. But yes,
But just maybe, here's a good point though, because this is very much new Trek. Do you not like the Game of Thronesification of TV these days? It was really nice when Game of Thrones was out, but now everything does it.
Well, I don't think it was just Game of Thrones. Like, long story arcs in TV are definitely a thing, and I don't mind them. I do like episodic TV. Like, I'm actually, I love comedy shows still, like sitcoms, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Office and that kind of stuff. And they're like episodic shows. I quite like those. Yes, I don't mind long story arcs. It's just the way TV is nowadays. Has been for a while. Strange New Worlds. Have you watched Strange New Worlds?
No.
Very episodic. Has overriding stories, but it's also episodic. So,
but this is
was it Star Trek for you, Jacob?
Well, we'll see. But I think Lower Decks is also a good example of an episodic thing.
Yeah.
This is why I enjoyed going back and watching TNG and Voyager and DS9 when I started in like a COVID period. It's because I was sick and tired of all this major arcing storyline for all shows at the time. And I think it was around about the period of Game of Thrones season 6 and 7. I didn't watch 7 because everyone said it was terrible. And 6 was starting to degrade rapidly. And then I just got sick and tired of this huge, every episode you have to watch continuously.
Yeah. And
each one's an hour long.
I think it might be kind of why, maybe not like recent years, but like let's take like the 2000s and the late 2000s, of why shows like Star Trek managed to keep going. Because there was reruns on TV and you can just watch. You can just jump in anywhere and it's fine. But nowadays people binge. Like, you watch a whole show, a whole series in a weekend. Boom, you're done.
Yeah.
And streaming services will try and make you sort of, release one each week, but you just wait for the whole thing to be out and then you watch the whole thing.
Well, I mean, a perfect example is like what I told you after we watched the episode, where it was like, oh yeah, yesterday I just put on DS9 and I watched the episode with the Ferengi, and
it is kind of the beauty of episodic shows, is you can just jump in kind of anywhere. But then there is something nice about having long, thought out, drawn out shows. Sometimes, they have their place. There are some episodic shows where it doesn't quite land, it doesn't quite work, and there are other shows that are more serialized, which again doesn't work.
I mean, I guess the negative is that generally the American TV always is like, you gotta have 24 episodes per season.
What it used to be.
Yeah, which was always quite excessive, because it meant you always had these lulls.
So yeah, me and Tom spoke about this on our podcast as well, is that one of the things I dislike about serialized TV, you don't get as many B plots and subplots, and that was a big criticism I had with Discovery, is like, I don't feel like I knew the crew. I knew like the cap. I knew like Michael Burnham and Saru, and I knew like the main cast. But like the helmsman and the science officer and the engineer, I didn't really know them that well. We didn't get as many B plots or their own episodes. But then saying 12 episodes in a series, how much can they actually tell of all these characters
But that's a nice tangent into Picard.
Picard.
Of why I think it was not very good.
Okay.
I mean, like, so just on that point, like you're saying, like, all the characters don't get much showing, right? And the thing is, what they seemed they were doing, at least in this episode in general, was there's 3 plots going on.
Yes.
The Borg stuff, the Girardi killing, what's his name? The Bruce Maddox.
Yeah.
And then, I don't even know the characters' names.
Well, that's not the show's fault. That's because you just watched one random episode.
No, sure.
Raffi and Rios.
Yeah, sure. But it looks like they were trying to give each of those 6 characters a play. Sorry, I should explain. 6 because it's 2, 2, and 2. And then Picard floats in between. He does seem like a bit of a... I'm just sort of here in a scene, I'm here in a scene in this one. It's a bit loose. But,
for Star Trek Picard didn't have much.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of my points. But the other characters, it looks like they were trying to give them that sort of, I need to develop character
there
plot.
was A, B, and C.
Exactly.
In the show.
And so that's sort of maybe the counter to your point, but I think for me it went too far. Because there was 3 different storylines going on, and they're constantly cutting between all of them. Yeah. And I will say, stuff with the Borg stuff, that was super interesting, and we'll get into it. And I think that could have been an entire episode for me.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that now, because we haven't got to go at 1, 2, 3, 4. We can just jump around.
All right,
let's do that. So, I agree. 7 taking over the Borg cube is very cool. Now, the Borg cube, if I remember rightly, you saw more of it, and the show was set on that on the previous episode, maybe the episode before as well. And there was I remember them doing some really cool establishing shots of the Borg cube from space, and it was cool when it first came on screen. We didn't really get much of that in this episode. It didn't really show you much of the Borg cube. I agree. It would have been really cool if that story had played out longer. I feel that the emotional drain on 7 should have had more prominence and had more weight, because that's quite a big decision she makes when she goes to reconnect with the cube and become a bit of a queen. Like, it's a great plan. It's very dangerous.
That is a classic Star Trek trope.
Yeah.
Right? She's in a dilemma, but to save people, she has to do the one thing that she is against her. You know, she was released from the Borg, and now she has to capture people back in.
Yeah.
You could have spent so much time on that dilemma of, this is an issue for her, you know, to make an emotional decision, there's a consequence. But yet, like, the whole scene, I was going to time it and I forgot to do it. Each scene where it's Borg stuff, I'm sure it was like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are we doing? And then especially that point where there's these plot reveals and it's cutting, there Picard's talking to, Picard's with Soji and Girardi, and they're talking about stuff about the Destroyer. Yeah. And then there's also the other 2, like Rios and the other... Raffi. Yeah. Drug woman, let's call her Druggy woman. And they're then doing it, it's cutting between all 3 scenes very quickly in Act 2.
Yeah.
And it was like, but the Borg stuff's like really interesting.
Yeah, I do agree. And again, it's kind of, I don't remember where 7 and the Borg cube goes in the next few episodes of Picard.
Does it just end?
Yeah, I don't know if it pays off in a satisfying way or not. But yeah, I kind of felt like it should have had more. But that was probably one of my bigger criticisms of this episode in particular. Was I don't want to go as far and say it was a disservice to 7, but it definitely deserved more focus and attention, I think.
if you're going to put Borg in it, look, I'm a writer on Star Trek Picard. Right, we got Picard, and the show's called Picard. So what do we need? The Borg, right? We got to have the Borg. Who else do we need? Well, I only watched the movie, so we got to have Data. Oh yeah, but Data's dead. Well, let's do Data's daughter. So we'll bring in Data's daughter, and we'll do that sort of plot. Okay, so Picard, I think I did watch the episode 1 to 4. Does he go to the Borg cube to get Soji?
Yeah,
and then he comes back.
They are on the cube at least for an episode, maybe 2. Yeah, they're there for a while. But and that episode, when they finally get to the cube, you get some great exposition about what happened with the cube, why it's there, what the Romulans are doing on the cube, and they're basically trying to rehabilitate
deborgify
these drones, and it's really cool and really, and it's kind of we got a bit more of that, but obviously that had already happened in the series.
He meets Hugh, right? Does he see Hugh?
He was there in the intro.
Yeah.
The previously on, but we see Hugh getting killed, and I was like, it's a bit of a shame that Hugh dies, but it's cool that he was back anyway. You know.
But it's like, it's kind of like a. you have all that stuff with the Borg, and Picard, Borg, very important, rehabilitating Picard, right? Well, that's he can empathise with that. But if it's only one episode, and I guess in the writer's room they were just like, oh, well, we also have, sorry, what's the actress's name? 7 or 9?
Oh, Jerry Ryan.
Jerry Ryan. Oh, we've got Jerry Ryan. So, okay, she's on board. She's also done Borg stuff.
Yeah.
So she can then do Borg
Which is
stuff.
it was a great tie. Yeah. It was a great
I like this.
connection.
Yeah, I like that they thought we should bring her in. But the problem is, it's like, it goes out to my wider point of, like, there's too much going on. You're trying to do a Picard thing with the Borg, you're trying to do a 7 of 9 thing with the Borg. Why do you need the Borg? Because it's season 1 of Picard. We've got to have the Borg.
Well, we don't have to, but
that's my point, is you couldn't have done it. Like, just, like, this is one of my biggest gripes in general of this whole season, is, like, there's too much going on. And you do see it in this episode, because this is the episode where they do all the reveals.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, didn't mention it, it was a great episode selection, because it was just all the reveals.
We knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So, saying that, by the end of the episode, yes, I knew what was going on. It reminded me of all season 1 of Picard. But during the previously on, when we first watched it, what happened in the last few episodes, I didn't remember anything. When we first came into it, I didn't remember any of his characters, I didn't remember any of the plot of the story. I was like, who's this guy that's being killed? And I later asked, it's Bruce Maddox. Oh my god, yeah, Bruce Maddox was in this episode, I remember now. But yeah, it didn't help at all that previously on...
That's why I was glad I did it the second time, because then I was like, I worked out because I only have bits and pieces of what is going on in the storyline, and I was like, oh yeah, now I know what before, but I did have some comments about that opening stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, okay, when they mention Romulan secret groups, why is there so many?
Yeah.
Why is it not just the Tal Shiar, which is the secret police?
You can have more than one secret group, because it is all of a cult.
Yeah, but it's a bit weird to just have more and more and more.
Well, it's a whole planet, it's a whole empire.
Yeah, I guess. It sounds so similar to Tal Shiar.
Okay, so the Romulans, surprise, surprise, are an analogy for the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had the Praetorian Guard, which is like the Emperor's personal bodyguard. And then you also had other religious cults, like Christianity.
Okay, I can accept that. I can accept that as an excuse, but it doesn't... They don't play it like that.
No.
If the writers... I don't know if the writers were that clever. There was also a particular scene in the opening bits that really annoyed me, was where there's a scene from a previous episode, and it was some kid, and then Soji is lying in a bed, and they were saying something like, oh, but you and Picard can be, like, together.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is weird. Like, why does she like Picard? They've only really met each other.
I kind of agree, but then was sort of lacking that context of not having seen the early episodes, at least recently. So
sure, but it's a weird comment to make. Why would just this... I mean, this goes into another point about Data that I'll mention later.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that one later.
Yeah, so... I'm going to give that one a pass because, again, I don't know the context of that scene, of where it's pulling from.
Yeah. More general stuff.
I liked it. Raffi calls Picard JL. I like that. It's cute. It's a nice nickname. It's familiar.
How do they know each other?
They used to serve together, and I think it revealed... I think Picard kind of screws her over some way. Maybe not intentionally, but yeah, they had a falling out.
But can you just imagine TNG Picard, and if Riker called him JL?
No, but then
it's Commander Picard to you, Riker.
But it was a different relationship.
Stop putting your leg all the way over the chair and sit properly.
Beverly Crusher, she would always call him Jean-Luc.
Yeah, but they had a romantic relationship. So
Raffi and Picard, they had
a romantic relationship.
No, they were just good friends, and I think that's fine. I like JL. I think it's a good, cute nickname.
Just the thinking back to TNG, his only friends were the archaeologist woman, and the Doc and Beverly Crusher.
I reckon you could say Q as well. I mean, he wouldn't admit it.
Sort of, yeah. And then they only really became friends with his crew at the end because he goes and plays poker.
He does, yeah.
But that sort of, I don't object to it.
Mm.
I think that there's some history that they could have explored there, maybe to explain it better. But Picard is a very uptight captain.
Yeah, but also he's not been captain for what, 30, 40 years.
But he's an admiral now.
He's
got to be an arsehole.
Well, no,
which is another general point.
He's like a retired admiral. He's basically, they bring him out for ceremony. He's not an active admiral.
Yeah. So again, back to another point where he's senile.
Oh, he's a little senile. But then again, like if he's been on Chateau Picard for however many decades.
So he's been drinking.
Yeah, and he's not been commanding a starship. He's probably not flown a starship in decades. Of course, he can be a bit rusty. I mean, new technology. Like back in his day, it was all touch buttons.
We are
and now
talking.
it's
Sorry,
like
we are talking about the scene towards the end where
he sits down.
Soji was taking over the ship. Rio sings a song and then manages to regain control of the ship, and then Picard just sits down on a chair.
The music starts,
and he's like doing TNT music build up, and then he's just like, "Oh, I don't know how to fly it."
Yeah,
and it's like this is.
It makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense because
It does.
Picard just sits in the chair and commands them to do it. Like he never flew.
Did occasionally. Must have. Wait, hang on.
I can't remember it. Maybe he flew the shuttle or the leisure craft.
Yeah, did a shuttle. Oh, yeah.
The captain's shuttle.
Captain's yacht. Yeah,
the captain's yacht. That's the
We should
one.
always get more captain's yachts. Other cool little bits. The Borg Transwarp Network gets a call out, and they use that. I'm like,
I
that's
do
cool.
like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I kind of I don't know where the Borg are. Surely they're like keeping track of
Well,
people.
I thought they always had nodes around the
But
exits,
you'd
right?
think they have like basically a dolmen. It's like put a few
Yeah.
little Borg there, a little sphere.
Or it's, I mean, just how Voyager ended when they exited. They blew everything up, right? So
Yeah.
it's all a bit. Maybe their network is a subspace structure that exists,
Oh,
but
it's like cut off.
yeah,
Oh, that's
but
kind of
and then
interesting.
the Borg have to rebuild all the structure around it in order
Yeah.
to enter and exit it, but they don't quite know where it is. I can wave that away. I can give
Oh no,
that a
totally.
pass.
Like I don't. Yeah, I'm kind of curious, like how it's there and why they can just use it kind of freely.
because I mean, at the
I
end
like
of
this,
Voyager, they did say, "Oh, we can take down the Borg
Yeah, they did.
subspace
They
network."
sort of
They
tried-
took it down,
Yeah.
and then it meant the Borg could never come to Earth again.
And then Janeway got a visit by the Temporal Prime Directive Police. Definitely.
When was that?
Well, no, she didn't. She shouldn't. No, we're
Oh,
not.
yeah, well, no,
we're not going on that
yeah,
tangent.
I need explanation on that one.
Well, on the at the end of Voyager, future Janeway comes back and helps
Oh, yeah.
present
Yeah,
Janeway.
yeah, yeah.
So Janeway changes the timeline. So
Oh,
surely
yeah, but that's meant to happen.
Oh, okay. So it's a predefined.
Yeah,
paradox.
it's a Doctor Who, so it's meant to happen.
Okay, fine. One last nothing note. In the Borg cube, when all the Romulans are about to whiz off to go to the synthetic planet, you get all these cool shots of Romulan warbirds, and they're cool. They're really sexy ships. I like them. They're good.
They
They're
feel
good
like
looking warbirds.
I do like the design, but they seem small. Like,
Yeah,
because it looks as if, like, the normal Romulan warbird, they're chunky, they're big, they're like a proper
Yeah.
warship, whereas this is more like a scout ship.
Yeah, maybe like an assault vehicle or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Rather than, like,
But
the
also,
proper...
when they warp away, the little warp light, it's green. I like it, like Romulan
I
green.
think it was red, and then it goes green.
Yeah, like the engine's red, and it went like the actual little light bit,
Okay.
just like with the tail, like the skid marks. They kind of.
So do you think this is
green.
also powered by a black hole?
Yeah, yeah.
This is probably why I don't like Picard. I think I came to this episode was a good way of me working out why I don't like Picard in general. And this may change if I see season 3, but it's Alex Kurtzman has written this and season 2.
Yeah, you mentioned this on the opening credits. Now I don't know who that is.
Now Alex Kurtzman,
Is he a writer or is he a producer?
he's the executive producer.
Okay.
And it's for a lot of this modern Trek.
Yeah.
He came in and did it. So did Discovery.
Yeah.
I think he was involved with J.J. Abrams on the Trek movies. That's when they
Yeah.
first brought him in. And so I think he took over mostly for the second one, but don't quote me on that one. It might still be mostly J.J. Abrams. But he was involved. And then they were like, okay, we're going to do shows, so Alex Kurtzman is going to be the executive producer for all of this. Now, apparently he's done a lot of involvement, like he was helped building up the writing group and all this and helped develop the shows. Which, for me, explains why it's so different. Like, it's very sort of modernized Trek. And my thing is, I think they're trying to wander into this Star Wars type environment of very shiny, very new, very, less of this grey ship design, more complex structure, this more flashy. It feels like a lot of this feels more Star Wars, modern Star Wars, rather than classic Trek for me. And
Okay.
Alex Kurtzman has been involved with all this up until Star Trek Season 3, where they had a new... I don't know whether he was still executive producer, but they had a primary writer who did a lot of the stuff and a primary producer.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so different Season 3, is that he had less creative control over what he was doing.
I see.
Now,
Yeah.
that's just off the top of my head, so...
Yeah. I think I've got a less negative view on the newer Treks than you do.
Yeah.
And I would say that to make a show is more than one person.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it's a collective effort. And you can get one person who's like got a more
Just
vision.
more fingers in the pie is what I mean from him.
I think obviously a good example of that in more recent years is Star Wars. You've got Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
Yes.
Like those two, they've sort of
they
become
have a vision.
Yeah, and they are basically that what Star Wars is what they want it to be, and they're making some really good Star Wars, and also with Jon Favreau as well, Marvel as well. But yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying, but I don't quite have that associated with Kurtzman.
Yeah, so I just looked at it. It says Terry Matalas was the showrunner for Picard season 3.
Hmm.
So that's on season 1. I'm not sure. Oh no, it's somebody different. Okay, maybe I'm misquoting, but I know Kurtzman was basically in charge of these modern stuff.
Yeah,
and he was associated, I think, with the films as well in some capacity, and he carried over. And the point is, the reason why I mention this is because for me, this Picard does feel more like Kelvin timeline stuff. Very glossy, very shiny, very different aesthetics and designs.
Yeah.
Like the sort of, the way that they do the special effects and what the ships look like.
Yeah.
It feels very Kelvin-y. And especially when it's like you have admirals saying fuck a lot and the Federation is just evil. It feels, and they're doing drugs on Earth. Like,
come on!
You know
the
what
Federation's, sorry, admirals have always been evil. That's their thing.
Yeah, I know, but usually they're incompetent as well.
No, they've got some pretty just plain evil ones. Okay, I would say yes, it looks very new and sleek and flashy, but I would say that's just more of a modern TV trend because there's no way the Enterprise D, the internal sets, could get designed or put on TV now. Let's have a conference room in space.
Well, actually, that's not true because they did that for season 3. They rebuilt.
I know, but that was on nostalgia, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I would have loved to have seen that.
No, totally. That kind of ship design wouldn't fly now, I don't think. I mean, even like you look at DS9 and Voyager, like the ships the designs look more utilitarian, more like realistic, I suppose, and then Enterprise as well. So I think that's just a stylistic choice as opposed to it must look like the Abrams Kelvin stuff.
Well, so Alex Kurtzman here, it says that he's worked on Star Trek the franchise since 2009, co-writing scripts on the first Kelvin timeline film, Star Trek, and then Into Darkness.
So the second one.
Yeah, which was bad. It was okay.
Yeah, no, that is my least favourite. It's
considered the least, and then the third one he wasn't involved in, which was then good. So, maybe he's just more hit and miss. I mean, it says he was co-creating the more recent Star Trek shows Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds. For me, it's more of it's sort of like what Star Wars is now. 50% good, 50% bad, for me.
I mean,
I like Lower Decks.
It's kind of like the old movies, isn't it? Like the old original series movies. It's, only some of them are good. They're even numbers.
Yeah, well, with the Star Trek films.
Yeah. So
this one's bad. That one's good.
Yeah,
is it odd numbers or even numbers? Which one's good?
Even I think even with this episode, like Picard, like I've got some things which I pulled out. That's really, it gave me something to think about and to chew on.
Maybe I've got one more general thing.
Go on, do one more general, and then I'll hit into one of my sort of my things.
The opening theme.
Okay, do you mean the music?
I think the music's good.
Yeah.
But for me, the music works more in a scene where you're like, imagine you take that music and then the opening credits for DS9. When you're looking around the space station, it's music where it's kind of building awe, and look at this, it's sci-fi, fantasy, interesting stuff, right? Or with Voyager, where it's just flying through solar systems and planets and so on.
Yeah.
And that music suits that sort of cinematography rather than just weird random shapes. Well, it's like, there's a cube and then a piece of glass falls down.
The ball cube was obviously, that was a ball cube.
Yeah.
And then there's like this little, I don't know my shapes. It looked like a glass, some sort of something hedron, whatever. And I was like, that's the thing that Data had. That had an image of Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
That was his little photo thing.
I get this.
So it's just like, I think it's like...
I don't think it suits the music.
I kind of think it did, because you had like the vineyards in there. I think that the music and the imagery of the opening credits don't necessarily fit
the theme. Yeah, I agree with that.
The high stakes of the show. That's one of mine. We'll come to it a bit later. I'll just touch on it now.
It's really lightweight, right?
Yeah, it's quite lightweight, but then the show is very much
dark and gritty.
Well, no, end of the universe kind of stuff. Like, this is a very big galaxy-wide calamity which could happen. So I feel like there's that kind of tone. I would have preferred Picard season 1, at least, to be a bit more, I'm going to use the word grounded, a bit more focused, just on maybe like a personal threat or issue with just Picard and not a Starfleet-wide issue, a galaxy-wide issue, just a...
Here's another thing, though, because it's that whole university ending stuff is nonsense to me. But what other Star Trek episode has there ever been? This is a galaxy-wide threat, like a university-ending threat.
Always. Okay.
No, but like the Dominion is an invasion. Okay, it's always a battle. Borg invading Earth. Okay, it's high stakes, but the Federation might still survive.
The TNG final. There's the
Q.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. Right. But it's not like. But that's how to best describe it. I mean, well, it's Q. He is a god, right?
But Q would let that happen. Like that's what the Q do.
Would he though?
Yeah. Well, not him. Other Q.
Maybe other Qs.
Yeah. There's.
Do you reckon? Are they all called Q, or do you reckon one of them's called R, S?
No, they're all called Q.
Okay.
Yeah.
Q1, Q2, Q3.
Just Q.
Okay.
I like that. I like they're all called Q. Yeah. You sort of sprung that on me. If I had a bit more time to think, I could probably think of some more times when there was actual galaxy-wide issues.
It just feels a bit... Especially because, like, it's not... It's only in the last 2 episodes... Well, I think it's only in the last episode where the threat really emerged.
But then also we're sort of comparing a singular episodic episode against the entire series. So, like, we got what... How many episodes of Picard of it? In that series, is it 10 or 12?
10.
Let's say, so 10 hours. That's like 3 movies compared to 45 minutes.
Sure.
So that's why you have these sort of generally higher stakes in these kind of shows.
But I guess my point is more that you always have these different level of grandiose scales of threats, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of what I think is very good with Star Trek is when it's always a sort of localized, but you care about this thing happening, right? Or it's a personal thing, or it's, or it's like, okay, this planet threat is the next step up, or then it's not. I guess you could argue DS9 is more of a sector threat with the Dominion.
Oh, it's a whole Alpha Quadrant threat.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big threat, but it's not like you were ever necessarily thinking that they're going to fail.
But that was played over several series and long story arcs.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can have these big threats, but without it being... Okay, here's the best analogy. Star Wars, let's build a superweapon, the Death Star.
They love their superweapons.
We'll do the 3rd film. Oh, we'll build another one. Okay, right. But wait. Let's redo Star Wars, and we'll build an even bigger one.
I've got a great idea.
We're now going to have not just like a moon. What's the next step up? Well, it's a planet, right? We'll have a planet-destroying superweapon.
If we was doing a Star Wars podcast, I would have some things to say about that. But we're not going to.
But you see my point? That sort of that building up scale of stuff, and it's just nonsense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Picard Season 1 could have had equally high stakes without it being actual high stakes. Like Galaxy, a big drama, but...
Because in Season 3, isn't it, where the Borg is taking over the database network of the ships?
I feel like I need to rewatch Season 3, because there's a couple of little points I'm like, I don't actually quite get how they intersected and played out. Do you want me to say? I know you've not seen it and you kind of want...
No, I would love to see it, but I know the plot points.
Okay, fine. So, yeah, there's Borg in there kind of doing something, but then there's also changelings. And and I'm like, I can't quite remember. I think I kind of missed it when I watched it the first time, but how they kind of interplayed with each other.
Oh, the changelings were experimented on by Sector Secret 31, yeah.
Secret 1.
Yeah, everyone doesn't like that one, right? Because it's a bit too... It's not Federation-y. Yeah,
there are... People have got
opinions
about Section 31. It's good, but it's also not good. Yeah, whatever. If we get an episode of Section 31, we'll talk about it then. I want to talk about octenary systems.
Yeah.
8 planets. And so when we first watched, I was like, what if they exist? And then I remembered on a previous episode of this podcast that I mentioned to Tom about a book series I read called The Three-Body Problem, and it grapples with the issue of a tri-solar system with 3 stars, and it's impossible to predict how they will orbit and all that stuff. And I was like, what about 8? onto Google. Somebody had this exact same thought, obviously, for this exact same episode. And it was on Wired.com, and they tried to answer this question. Surprise, surprise. The short answer is no idea. they don't know. Most likely impossible. And this is not from the article. This is a me opinion. It's a Dan opinion. The universe has done weirder things. The universe has done weird. Like, I'm going to give you Big Bang and life. Is that weirder than 8 stars?
Do you want a scientist's opinion?
Okay, before we get that scientist's opinion, remind us, Jacob, what kind of scientist are you?
Okay, I am an experimental particle physicist,
Which is not
but
astrophysics.
I studied more astrophysics at university.
Okay, fine.
So
Fine. Let me just finish my thought, and then yes, you can jump in with maybe an actual scientific explanation to this. So yeah, this article was saying that unlikely to be stable is impossible to predict, but I really liked it. I thought it was a really cool sci-fi concept. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And what really grabbed my mind was when Raffi was like, "Oh, someone made it. They move stars. How do you move stars?" And I really got thinking about that. And I was
when
like,
you have a warp drive, you can do anything.
well, Scotty can. I was like, okay, but how in the
I have a Scotty reference for later.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
In the world of Star Trek, how would you move stars? And I would like to hear your a sci-fi answer, not a real answer, a sci-fi answer. For me, I was like, okay, well, you can't tow it. You can't get a big tractor beam. It's too big. I was like, okay, fine. You could use gravity to move it around, and then basically play space golf and put it through a wormhole, like an artificial wormhole, and put it into place. That kind of work. I had this thought in the shower a couple of days later. I was like, gravity. Sorin, Star Trek Generations, that man was blowing up stars and using gravity to change the orbits and positions of stellar objects. I'm like, that's how they did it. They would blow up stars or use some other way to create strong gravitational changes to move these stars. And yeah, that's kind of where I've gone. I sort of had a great time just thinking about how you would move stars.
Here's my take on this.
Go for it. Give us a scientist.
So, because you can always wave things away with a warp drive.
Totally.
One could say you can use the warp drive to encompass the entire star. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to do, but I guess they can warp drive star bases anyway. Maybe there's some junk you just build a massive engine, whatever, and then that would move it in position.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that would be the only way that I could see that they would do it, because it's trying to move it. Tractor beam, I guess tractor beam works on something that has to be more physical, whereas the star is pretty much condensed plasma.
It has mass.
It has mass, but it's holding itself via pressure and density. It's holding itself stable, so pulling things out.
When you've got your big tractor beam, if you just fluctuate something or reconfigure something, the technobabbles, and it'll work.
Okay, babbles.
Yeah,
or let's
just move some Isonian chips from one point to another point.
Let's get the Traveller, and Wesley can do it with his magical powers.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I didn't even go down that route. Maybe the people who move these stars were like you, and they just
that's the only way you could do it in a Star Trek thing.
Yeah. Okay.
because the problem, so that's the only way I could do it in a Star Trek environment. In a more of a reasonable thing would be that you'd have a very dense gas cluster, and then you would artificially inseminate these stars. As in, you would have some sort of high-density device.
So before the stars were born?
Yeah, so you basically, stars, and it's just a gas cloud, right? And you just have these devices that effectively condense down gravity in a local field, a local environment, and causes all the gas clouds to condense exactly at the right moment in position, so that they would form these stars and then form immediately into this octenary system.
Yeah.
And you do the same with the planet in the middle, right?
Well, I suspect moving a planet is easier than moving a star.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a scientist, but in a sense of because that's a rock and then that's gas.
In your hypothetical gas cloud, there was just a rogue planet.
There you go.
There you go.
It's rogue planet.
We've solved it.
So this is how in a Star Trek thing would make more Star Trek logic to me. Yep. Is there's a device and they had 8 of them and that formed the stars.
I like that.
Yeah, that one makes more sense. In reality, the most common star type system in our universe,
Surely it's singular.
It's binary.
It's really?
Yeah, 2 binary system is the most common.
The more you know.
Right. Then I believe it's singular and then tertiary.
Tertiary being 3.
3,
Yeah.
yeah. You can get 4, I think, but it's incredibly unstable.
Well, in the episode, they also mentioned that the pilot hologram mentions he goes, oh yeah, I know of a 7 star system, but like an 8 one? Impossible.
One can argue that an 8 or a 7 one exists around the black hole at the centre of our galaxy, because you have a singular object, which is a supermassive black hole, and you have 6 to 7 stars orbiting around it. But in the orbital structure that they have written down on the show, this is virtually impossible to form naturally. It won't occur naturally, and again, you'd have to do this Star Trek nonsense.
Earlier, when I said about the universe has done stranger things, I mean, it's most likely impossible that 8 stars could have a stable orbit.
Yeah, you can never get it unstable.
But the universe has done weirder things.
Well, it just cannot be stable.
Okay, I will believe the scientist.
It cannot be stable in any way. I mean, this is why it's so difficult to understand a 3-body problem, is because it's inherently unstable.
That's my point. But so it's impossible to predict, but it doesn't mean it can't be.
Right,
maybe like the way that 8, it just sort of clicks. It has like a magic, just sort of.
Well, this. I mean,
just sort of like how the building blocks of life. It's just like it just sort of like it shouldn't happen, but it just did happen.
Okay, here's a good example. You've got in chemistry, you have the number of protons and neutrons in an atom, right?
Yeah.
And it's stable up until iron.
Yeah.
After iron, you can start getting more and more radioactive elements, right?
Okay.
And their half-life drops. Well, yeah, they become more radioactive, right?
Yeah.
But in principle, you keep going larger and larger and larger, they'll collapse faster, right? But then it's predicted that if you keep going high enough, there's a small island of stability where you can have some giant elements that can exist. They are still going to die in milli or microseconds, but it's have a longer lifespan than the ones around them. That's why it's the island of stability.
I see. Right. Yeah.
So what you're saying is maybe there's an island of stability gravitationally.
Yeah, in the amount of planets you can have.
Yeah, but no.
Oh, okay.
Because the problem is, in this sort of gravitation orbital environment, you'll have so many small perturbations, and these small perturbations cause ever-increasing changes to the orbital mechanics of each body, because each one's acting on the other. Yeah. Right? And effectively what would happen is they will almost instantaneously become unstable, probably throw one or two of them out.
They'll crash into each other.
Or crash into each other, or throw... What's most likely is one star will be slightly bigger than the other and start sucking material from the other star, then eventually causing a supernova, right? One star might get into an orbit which would then cause it to be thrown out of the system, potentially. Like, all of this...
It's not going to work how that picture works.
No, that's not possible, but you can get multi-body systems. Yeah. Like I said, around a black hole. It exists. We've seen it. It's just not in that picture format.
No, but
but it's good iconography for the.
It's good sci-fi.
Yeah, it's good for the show.
Let's stick with that then. So I've got another thing about what the star system was trying to do. It's a message it's a warning, and I love that.
I hate this already.
Oh no. Okay, this is great. This is one of my preferred bits of this episode. You've got a problem. How do you communicate that problem over the eons? And it reminded me a lot of nuclear waste storage, which, as you know, is done by encasing spent fuel rods in lead or copper or whatever it is, and concrete and underground, like into like hard rock and deep storage. And I remember I watched some YouTube videos about this ages ago, and I went back and I found them again. I rewatched some videos. Obviously, this nuclear waste storage is going to be deadly for tens of thousands of years. One video even said like 100,000 years. There's a facility in Finland which is doing this long-term storage, and they're planning for 100,000 years. So they're trying to warn off future civilizations, and there's a problem with that. It might just not be humans. Probably will be, but it might not be. Human civilization might look very different to how we look now. It could be like language issues or cultural issues. How do you warn people off? Humans are naturally curious people. And this video also mentioned there was the USA commissioned a report on markings for this kind of site, and it would use things like the nuclear symbol, but that the meaning of that might get lost. Then it also it proposed, there was like a little comic, and it had like a nuclear barrel with a symbol on it, and a person that was happy. And then the next scene, framing the comic, was the person got close to the barrel, and then there was then a symbol on the barrel, and then the person. And then the third scene, the person was dead, and, it was... Yeah. But then the problem with it said about that specifically was, well, who's to say that a future civilization would, A, read a comic left to right, and B, understand causality? These are big problems. And it also mentioned this thing about the spike, spike artwork, and it was a sort of more very cryptic artwork. It was like spiky, like landscapes and things. It looked like unsettling artwork, and they propose things like kind of like almost a bit like a Stonehenge, like put like stones around it to warn people off. But yeah, fascinating issue, which is a real world problem, and I reckon that's the inspiration for this 8-star system. Is like, how do you communicate such an important issue over the eons? My partner brought up that could be Stonehenge. Maybe Stonehenge is actually an ancient warning, and we don't know the meaning. Unlikely. We know it's kind of got to do with like the solstice and the stars and stuff. But yeah, we don't actually 100% know what Stonehenge is for, and that's only 5,000 years old, only. And then in this, we're talking like 200,000 or 300,000 years.
Problem with your theory is it will just make people go to the planet in the middle.
No.
And then they go nuts and kill themselves.
Exactly.
So then nobody can go back and communicate the problem.
That was another thing that was suggested by the USA report. It was like, start basically a religion. And and try and build it, have these customs that get passed down from generation to generation. And that's kind of what we did there. They had this Romulan cult had sort of formed around this, and
I thought it was very dumb.
We can argue that the whole thing about warning against synthetic life is dumb. I've got thoughts on that, but the actual idea of communicating a problem across tens of thousands of years, that's a cool sci-fi concept. I like that,
because it's basically, the reason why this is dumb is because then you have this amazing star system that's artificial, and somehow in Star Trek logic it's stable.
Yeah. Sci-fi.
And they were like, okay, everyone's going to want to go to it because it's like one of the only star systems that look like it, and everyone's going to go there and then touch the metal pole, because there's a scene, I don't know if you noticed at the beginning, there's a scene, one quick shot, like 1 second of it, where they didn't do the artwork for the green glow. You can just see where they're holding onto the metal pole. So you got this metal pole that they're holding onto, and they touch the metal pole with water in the middle, and somehow they see magical things. Also, another point though, USB compatibility problem.
Where? What?
Well, in Jeff Goldblum in the ship Independence Day, he plugs USB into an alien ship. Why does the alien ship have a USB port?
That was a really weird tangent to go on, and you're right, 100%.
You're going to have this warning, but how do am I compatible with touching the metal pole?
Well, that's it. Like, you don't know, and that's the whole point of these kind of messages and warnings, is that you have to do it in, I guess, like the most universal way you can. So obviously, with these nuclear waste storages, you'll obviously write it in English, probably Mandarin and Arabic, and like maybe 50 languages, because something might survive. But yeah,
in a Star Trek thing, you'll have because it's an ancient race that lived in that. They built the system and the thing. How would their brains make sure that the Romulans could then see it?
Because from the episode of TNG where Picard goes on like an archaeology adventure, and it's discovered that all life in the Alpha Quadrant evolved from one species. So maybe it was those guys.
Oh yeah, that was.
Maybe it was those who put the warning there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
that was a bit silly.
It was a bit silly.
I'm the best archaeologist ever because I'm Picard, and I discovered that we all came from one species in the entire galaxy.
And everyone's happy.
And then I've got an archaeology award because I'm the best archaeologist.
Yeah. And
then we don't mention it again.
I love that. This intergalactic warning. I liked it.
Okay. I hated it.
Okay.
More because it announced what's to come, right? Okay, we'll get on to this.
Okay, good. Go on.
So, let's get on to this. So the whole point is an intergalactic warning because there's some destroyer. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a scene where they're in the hospital with Jurati after she's becoming less nuts. Again, another issue. Why does she become nuts, and then she's suddenly sane again.
She got mind melded. She got
mind melded to put the crazy thoughts. Again, that was a nice point. I thought mind meld was one way. I didn't realize Romulans and Vulcans can put their own memories into other people.
Oh, no idea.
That's a question for you, Star Trek nerds. Tell us in the comments below.
Yeah, I'm not nerd enough for that one.
But I'm curious because that's clearly what they're implying there is the Romulan woman put mind melded with her, and then put it in and then built like constructs around her mind. And I was like, okay, that's a nice callback or a nice lore dump for mind melding. But then Jurati suddenly becomes sane after just sitting on a hospital bed and talking to Picard because Picard's magic. And then she talks to Soji. I mean, and Soji's like, I'm the destroyer. It's like, well, you're not the destroyer.
Picard has got a superpower, it is, words. That is his thing.
That's another issue I had. Too many... He drones on a lot in this. That's all he does. He does 3 speeches.
You watch TNG, right?
Yeah, but in TNG it's a bit more...
Yeah, okay.
Woof, because he shots down people in TNG and he's like, oh, yeah.
I mean, he shot down the Admiral at the beginning.
Because she said, fuck off.
Well, no, but she was agreeing with him, but he went on a tangent first.
Yeah. Anyway, I was tangenting because Jurati goes a bit weird, and then she's like, I'm done murdering people after that scene, which is just weird. It's like, cool, Jurati, so now you're good? Cool. Okay, that was a nice plot tangent for you. Doesn't make sense, but okay, whatever. And, so Soji's like, I'm the destroyer. Because I guess it's meant to be a bit of a red herring that she's the threat somehow. And then they talk about some technological threshold that's going to be met, and that something's coming. So it's a bit inconsistent with what's the destroyer.
No, she's the destroyer in the sense that so they used a comparison with the warp drive and being the prime directive. So she's the threat in the sense that she's the warp drive.
But that threshold for the warp drive is just because the Vulcans can detect use of warp drive, and they weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
So it's not really a threshold. It's just that the Vulcans were in the area.
The prime directive sort of states that the Federation will only make contact if they reach a certain level of technology.
Yeah, sure, but
the base is like
but it's more of like the Federation is just going by, and there's like, oh yeah, there's an unusual warp signature.
But they're probably monitoring. Like they probably know there's they might let's assume there's Federation out there now. They're watching Earth. They know we're here. They know we're just idiots with nuclear bombs. But okay, when they get warp drives, we'll go say hello. But they've got like a little monitoring thing.
Sure, but then when it comes to synths, why is it that they make some threshold?
I completely agree. I said earlier, I don't like that.
I don't think they ever explain it.
I don't like the higher stakes of this series, and I don't quite like the idea of this higher plane of existence. It has like a prime directive to themselves. Like you make synthetic life, and they'll come and destroy you. Don't quite like that.
Also, then the implication was that ancient race who built the Octa planetary system destroyed that planet, but they only destroyed that one planet,
or that race, or I don't really know.
And also, that planet looked very green considering it was wiped out.
Yeah, well, it's been a few 1,000 years. Because in my mind, it's like we're not doomed to make the same mistakes that previous race or those previous synths did. We might live happily ever after. It's no guarantee that we're going to become Blade Runner. That's not...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not guaranteed to do that.
But Blade Runner concept would be better, where it's like, maybe there's a rebellion, and you need to then negotiate some way around it, because, a continuation of Data's trial. Yes, we believe you are human, therefore you can't be taken apart, and it's your will.
Yeah.
But maybe we also need to build some sort of treaty or sanctuary in which you can live and then coexist with us, but you're not suppressed like on Mars. Because I thought that was the original the original impression of when Picard first came out was that's what they were going for, and then it goes to this weird, all of a sudden there's a portal and some tentacle creature comes out. It's like, what is this tentacle creature? Oh, it's got a name? Okay, it's Destroyer. Okay,
well, never spoken about it again. Okay. I will hard agree.
Quick question, how did they stop that?
I can't remember. I guess I'd have to watch again. I don't know.
Data dies? Again?
He can't die.
Picard dies.
That he's immortal.
Picard dies and he becomes a synth, which is never talked about again. Because they're like at the end, oh yeah, but you can age just exactly like you were, and you'll die naturally exactly like you were. Cool.
Definitely not a synth.
I guess they gave the synths life, like they're not immortal.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it was.
Okay, let's do the synths. Let's talk about the synths.
Yeah.
So I had completely forgotten that Bruce Maddox was in this series. You remember who Bruce Maddox is?
He's that's one thing I wanted to check with you. He's the guy from the trial episode.
Measure of a Man, yes. So, you have Bruce Maddox, and I like how they bring him back. I mean, that's great, because in Measure of a Man, that original episode, he's the antagonist. We don't trust him, we don't like him. In that episode, you get the impression that he does not understand and respect Data. You feel like he doesn't know how he works, he doesn't respect him as a life form, and he just wants to take him apart as you would a car engine. Got a very blasé approach. But now, we've learned that he's gone away, he spent his entire working life, and now died for it, working on synthetic life and continuing, and, so let's just go ahead and say it, perfected it. We look at Soji, she's perfect. And I really, really, really love that scene where Jurati meets Soji, and she's like, "Do you eat?" When I'm hungry, and she's like, Jurati's really emotional and really excited, and it's a good emotional scene where she's so happy about what this android is able to achieve, what has been achieved. I really like that.
I thought it was weird.
Why was it weird, Jacob?
Because it's like nobody did that with Data.
But Data didn't look like Soji. Data looked...
Yeah, but he
alien.
was also android.
But people were impressed by Data, constantly.
Yeah, but...
But Data was very obviously still not fully human. But, he was like...
But if you're doing something like that, wouldn't you be more interested in sort of probably more hands-on, touchy... I know that's
you mean like the computational skills, maybe, or like...
she'd be more like looking at, how is this done? Like, how did she, physically trying to see how it was, made, or feeling and touching, maybe, because you want some...
Maybe I don't really know.
Maybe it's just the actors.
Yeah, but maybe that Jurati is her profession within the synthetic world is more about how do you make them look and act more human as opposed to their technical capabilities or how they're constructed. Maybe she's the emotional, the psychiatrist essentially to the engineer. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's her specialty within that field. Well, I don't know. I have no idea. But I think it's a good scene. It's a good emotional scene. I quite liked it. Maybe when she goes, "You drink?" It's good. I like it.
Maybe it's because the actress who plays Soji, I think she's rather flat. They write her off in the next season because I don't think she was very good. She's very boring.
I think she's dying. No.
She's not interested. I have no interest in character development or...
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question.
Just point out, I cared more about that episode where Data created his daughter.
With Lol.
Yeah, I cared more about her than Soji, and Soji is in principle Data's daughter. That's kind of my... Because you have parallel episodes here, right? I mean,
yeah, I suppose
this is part of this third story plot.
A little bit, but again, we're comparing a small part of an entire series, which is to one episode. You have to kind of take series one as a whole.
Yeah.
So if you watched all 10 episodes, you might get that more emotional attachment.
Yeah, but I'm thinking. Well, I've seen 1 to 4. I never cared about her then anyway.
So you've seen 5. You've seen half the series.
I've seen half the series.
That's like you watching the first 20 minutes of that episode of LOL and thinking, "That's shit. I don't want to watch it."
Well,
you know what I mean.
There's quite some emotional beats though. I think what's missing is. If that's what they're going for, which I assume they are going for, Data daughter type thing, because they make reference to it, not directly but inadvertently. There may have been, maybe you should have a more emotional scene with the father figure, like Bruce Maddox would meet her, and then you'd be like, oh, that's his father.
We might have had that in the previous episode, but he died.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, sure, but something like this would have built, I think, more of a more strong emotional attachment. Seeing how she would react to it. It's emotional, but that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So, I want to ask you a question. It's in that scene where where Jurati gets quite emotional about it, and then Soji asks, "Am I a person?" Great question. I love it. Jacob, is Soji a person?
Yeah, but I mean, this is just like the Data. It's just a repeat of what Data did in TNG, right? I mean,
okay, yeah, okay.
But the trial episode is a perfect example.
But that question is never fully answered.
No, they skip over it.
Yeah, and Star Trek never fully answered that question, and still hasn't answered that question. They're still grappling with it. And here's why I like that question: because we humans now, today, we're probably going to have to answer this question. Maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe we was. Things like ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff. AI is becoming more of a thing nowadays. Who knows when or if it will become that question will actually become poignant. That are these computers? Are they people?
Well, that's the point of Turing test.
Exactly.
But I mean, you can determine if an AI is human or not by whether it can fool you. But you can have AI that can fool you, but yet still not have competence. Conscience. Yeah. And I don't think you're ever going to have an AI necessarily with conscience, because your definition of what that might be is going to work very wildly. Like, should conscience have emotion, or should it just be pure logic? Or that tails back into your whole point. But you don't have that question, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a throwaway line in Picard. I think it's one of those member berries type things.
Yeah, maybe.
But
I thought it was quite a poignant moment. Because it changed the whole vibe, for a better word.
Yeah, but then it cuts to another scene.
It did. But it did change the whole vibe, because at one point Girardi was very excited and was, really quite emotional.
Sure.
And then she got shut down.
Yeah.
And you could see on her face. Yeah, so...
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give a moment to breathe. Because it
sure.
immediately cuts to a scene with either the Borg, where it's like an action bit, or it's a scene with
let me have it. Let me have this.
The scene with the Rios.
Yeah, Rios
and the drug woman. I can never remember her name.
Raffi.
I will not remember her name.
Don't worry.
R&R. Okay, R&R.
I struggle a lot with some of the side characters in Discovery.
It's just an argument for too many side characters.
Well, yeah, no, it's because there's a lot of them. They don't get much attention, but Raffi does get a lot of attention. So
there's an Enterprise issue.
Poor Mayweather.
Which one's he?
The pilot. The black guy.
The black guy,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Did he never get a single storyline? I don't think
No, he did in season 1 and season 2, but it was, by season 3, 4...
Translator Woman got
2 episodes. No, she got a few, again, at each season, they all got some, but they were never developed more beyond that. He sort of focused on, Archer, T'Pol, Trip, Phlox a little bit. Yeah, they always kind of got
because I think one of my favourite episodes for Enterprise, and I already mentioned this earlier, I don't like Enterprise much, but one of the good episodes towards the end was when, what's her name, the translator woman?
Hoshi.
She becomes the Empress of
the Mirror Universe
one. The Mirror Universe one. I'd like that one.
Yeah, that was cool.
I did like that episode.
Love a good Mirror Universe episode. I got one more thing I want to hit, sort of bigger thing. I expect you probably got something on it as well. I like the expansion of the EMH program, and there's loads of them. Isn't that great?
This is one of my next big points, right?
Go on then.
This is the one thing I like the most about this episode of Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
Three EMH versions.
It was 5.
5. It
was like an engine.
I wrote them down.
Was it hostess?
No, I wrote them down. So you've got the EMH, the
Yeah.
emergency medical hologram. You have the EEH, the emergency engineer hologram. You have the EHH, which is emergency hospitality hologram. And then you have the ENH, the emergency navigation hologram.
Yep.
And then there was one more. I don't know what the abbreviation was.
No,
I didn't know he did.
I assume he gets introduced in another episode.
Yeah, I assume in the previous episode.
Yeah. Maybe security.
I think he looks like a
bit fightery.
Yeah, he was more. They play him off like a sort of Russian mercenary type character. I guess ESH, emergency security hologram.
Sure.
I guess.
Or maybe it's like he's like a replacement command, like emergency command hologram. Like remember the Doctor had that one
episode. I love that. I love that. And I love that scene where it's just like ding, 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 and it gets the full pins on the side when it becomes emergency command hologram. Oh, that was such a good episode.
Okay, but it sort of raises a question. It's sort of linking in closely to what we were just talking about synthetic life. Androids dangerous. Holograms, not. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Surely the programming, the software,
smarter
is the same.
Yeah.
Like, why is one dangerous?
No, you're right. That's a massive plot hole I never noticed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you haven't got to program the holograms with as much AI as the androids, but you could do. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you also have to think about, there's that episode where, in Voyager, where Robert Picardo, I think that's the answer.
Yeah, it's his name.
Robert Picardo, at the end of this episode, there's like loads of versions of him mining.
Yes.
For mineral.
That dilithium.
Dilithium crystals. Yeah, they're mining for dilithium crystals because it's bringing up that whole data trial. They do another data trial episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, there's more of him because they're used everywhere.
If we assume Data is still alive by the time the Doctor is like season 6, season 7 Voyager, I think, or close enough. And one could argue that the Doctor is more sentient than Data is.
Yes.
So
it's more prolifically used,
yeah,
right? Whereas Data, by the end of Nemesis, that was towards the end, maybe like 30 years, I think.
Yeah.
TNG is because it's like their last mission, right?
Yeah.
It's the Enterprise
E.
No,
it is the E.
the D is what they originally had.
Yeah, that
crashed, right?
in Generations.
Yeah. Then they had another one.
Yeah, the E for First Contact, and then you have the E for.
No, but they crash it again because it's the F at the end.
No, it's
Yeah, because there's a throwaway line where Worf.
Do you want to buy me if I buy me dinner if I'm right? I
Yeah.
promise you. It's the E. Trust me, it's the E.
But I thought there's a throwaway line in because they I know they skipped a generation. Like there's one film, I think it's one film where they had a version and it's in that film, and then eventually you go to Nemesis and it's a completely different one because there's a throwaway. The reason why I say this is there's a throwaway line in season 3 of Picard where Worf's just like, well, what happened to this version? Well, let's say the F of Enterprise, and he was like, well, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault that we crashed into something. And it was like, okay, that's how that random version just changed, right? It was a throwaway line.
No, it's definitely not in those movies. I'm just going on to Wikipedia. In the Next Generation movies, it's definitely an E, but we did get a new one in Picard season 3.
Oh, because they're commissioning. Yeah, it comes out of the dry dock. This is
I don't know what lettering it got.
G. No, G. Enterprise G. Isn't this the really futuristic one?
We've got Constitution class, the retrofit, D, the E.
I do like the D.
Yeah. Then we have the G, which is the one from Picard, which is it was a Titan.
Yeah.
Then became Enterprise. So that's the newest one.
The G.
The
So
G.
it's F.
So where's the F?
The F is the one that Worf destroyed.
This ship appeared in season 3 of Star Trek Picard. So not TNG movies. You're right.
Did they decommission it then?
In the year 2401, the ship was set to be decommissioned following the Frontier Day Festival.
Yeah, in season 3. And then the E was just destroyed in Nemesis, right?
I don't think it got destroyed. I think it got battered and bruised, but I don't think it was destroyed.
But then I'm talking... Yeah, okay, then it's the E I'm thinking of. But it would be the E that Worf... The throwaway line destroys.
Also, it was an insurrection, Nemesis, an active participant in the Battle of Sector 001 and the Dominion War.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're tangenting on...
that was a massive tangent.
Yeah. I want to circle us back to the EMHs.
The point, though, that they are infinitely more versions by this point in the timeline of the Robert Picardo EMH doing all sorts of stuff, clearly by the point where, in Picard, he is a common feature on just the most bog-standard ship. And why is it that they are not intelligent enough that they can copy the personality of their commander?
Yeah.
And this is not a problem for this threshold.
Yeah, I know. That's, I think, probably the biggest plot hole.
That is a massive plot hole, yeah. Which I didn't notice.
But here we go. Now, still with the EMHs. During the scene where Raffi gets them all together, so it's a good little scene, it's quite fun and all trying to remember bits and bobs. The EMH, the medical one, very quickly breaks the Hippocratic Oath and reveals some medical background about Rios. He had a mental breakdown. I've got concerns. Big concerns. Did he, because obviously he programmed these, or he set them up, did he allow that hologram to be able to break the Hippocratic Oath? Or was that like a factory standard that this hologram can break the oath? Because, Hippocratic Oath is like, do no harm. Yeah. So, and it says, I'm going to break the oath now. And he just does it.
Casually.
Just casually.
But it is copying his personality.
Yeah, but surely it would have some program, so surely in that programming is don't kill people. Yeah. Don't stab someone. So surely it would, I don't know, I have concerns that it shouldn't be doing that. They did it very casually.
The only comparison would be in Voyager. Did Robert Picardo do something like this?
I mean, so the difference here is that the Doctor had sort of naturally evolved over several years, whereas we're assuming that the holograms we've seen in Picard, these Rios ones, they have just got a higher level of base programming. Yeah. They're just sort of, from the factory, they're better. Yeah, but there's a bit of a difference about how those two entities exist.
It's bad writing.
It was a weird thing.
Because you could argue, there's another way of going around it, right? I mean, you can easily write around it by saying, I can't break the Hippocratic Oath, but then it's like, but you're all copies of his personality, so rather than the medical one, you just have the Navigator one. So,
it would have been a much better way to go.
Yeah.
oh, I can't wait here to go.
But I can.
Yeah, but I can. Yeah, have a navigator do it.
That's an easy way of doing it.
And that would have been fun. He'd have been like, wait, no, you can't do it. That would have been great.
Yeah.
So,
and that's funny because that's the whole thing is played a bit of a jokey bit.
Yeah.
Right? So that would probably work better in a writing sense. Yeah, it was badly written, which is a shame because...
Otherwise, it was a good scene and I like those characters.
For me, like, the highlight of this entire episode is this emergency medical hologram stuff. I like that. There's a Star Trek episode in that in itself, and I wish that they had spent more time exploring this. And they played it like a joke, but I think it has more nuance.
No, I completely agree. And I hope in more Star Trek we see more EMs.
Yeah.
Or EHs.
I like the idea of these EMH stuff. Obviously not overused. You don't want to replace the entire crew. But it's a nice, idea. It's not like, oh, you got data. Oh, yeah, but then the EMH is kind of similar stack. It's also, a computer.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, maybe, you could have a show where it's just one character with 5 versions of themselves, and that's the show. That's pretty...
Also, here's my Scotty reference.
Oh, yeah.
The engineer hologram, he was trying to do a Scottish accent, and I assumed it was he's trying to do a Scotty impression because he's the engineer.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, that was neat. Nice touch.
I wonder if, just out the box, these holograms is, predefined personalities. So his is, whatever image you put onto me, it'll be a Scottish version. Maybe that's what it is. All engineers are Scottish.
I liked it.
All the good ones are, anyway.
It was very good. One more annoying thing.
One more. Yeah, we have gone a while.
Yeah, well, this will be the last point. It all comes back to Data. How would you describe Picard, just from TNG and the films, how would you describe Picard and Data's relationship?
Oh, okay, I know you're going this. Like a mentor kind of relationship, like a steward or a shepherd kind of thing. Pride in there. This is from Picard's point of view. Yeah. Definitely pride and respect. Yeah, that's how I think, the Picard side. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say he's also, it's professional, bit friendly towards the end of TNG, right? Yeah, the poker, right? They're friends, right? Of sorts. I don't think they would hang out outside of work.
Oh yeah, they would.
Would they?
Yeah.
Would Data want to go to the vineyard and visit Picard?
Definitely.
Do they do that in the last episode?
I can't remember.
Because they all retire, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm almost certain that in their free time, in Next Gen, Data would go around to Picard's quarters and they would study Shakespeare or whatever. They would have a philosophical discussion about whatever Data's problems are of the week.
Yeah.
And at the end of Nemesis, when Data dies, Picard's so upset. You can tell that he's upset. No, I do not think it's just professional. It's way more.
Yeah, okay. So it's more of a friendship.
A deep friendship.
Yeah, a deep friendship. But in this, they say he loves him.
That's okay.
And it's you can love him, but the way it's portrayed is as if he's relationship love. It's really too emotional.
I didn't get that sort of relationship love from that. I think it's definitely sort of like a family or a friendship, that kind of love. And if you'd have asked Picard, season 7 of TNG, do you love Data? The answer would have been no. But now Data's died and it's been decades removed. But no, I buy it. I buy the love.
Don't at all.
Okay.
Because the way I view it is obviously Data died in Nemesis.
Yes.
They would have hung out. He would have been like, I do consider you a friend, Picard. But he's, very logical. Because that's what he is. He's becoming human, but he wasn't human yet. Right?
No.
So, for then Soji to say, oh, he also loved you too, it's no, he died 30 years ago, and maybe Picard does, but he's maybe that's his way of dealing with emotional grief. But, Data definitely wouldn't have, because he's been dead.
Well...
You know what I mean?
He kind of comes back. He's not quite dead.
No, yeah.
So actually, for that and Data's emotions and thoughts, we'd probably have more context if we saw the season final of this season of Picard, because
they give dies and I don't know. Yeah, I know how it ends, but it's oh my god, it's so emotional.
But it is.
Data's dying again.
Season 2, he's back.
Oh god.
Season 3,
yeah,
again.
He's back.
So time to jump.
But this is why I was also I think from what I heard with season 3, when they're I bring him back, but this is when they actually round off his story properly, right? Because he becomes human.
Yeah.
He finally gains his humanity, which I was that is the way that you end Data's story, not
It should have been set up from season 1.
Dead again.
Yeah. It should have been a 3-series arc, but we've spoken about all this stuff for far too long. Let's try and wrap some things up.
Yes.
So, very quickly, Jacob, how we do this, we would like just some final closing thoughts of the overall episode, and then if you had to rate it on an IMDb scale, what would you rate it?
Yeah, so I did not like it. There's so many points in it I just thought were dumb. It's just feels like there's too many writers. It's too all over the place. And I would love to know if there's certain, like, one writer to do the Borg story, one writer to do the sort of Rios bit, and then one writer to do the Soji Girardi stuff. It would be really interesting if that was how it was done, because then you can really see, for me, why it's a bit more broken. And this is why this whole season is a bit more inconsistent. This episode was okay to watch. I'm not saying it was all bad. Like we said, the EMH stuff, I think there's some great concepts in there, and I'm sure the people who worked on it really like Star Trek. Maybe they just weren't able to fully encapsulate, I'm just going to have an episode on this stuff, I'm going to have an episode on this stuff. And so it's maybe the broad direction. I didn't even mention the ninja, which I think is dumb.
No, we can't bring everything up.
But, yeah, in general, I'm torn between something like a 5 and 5.5 for an IMDb score. I think it's watchable.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely boosted by the fact that it's a very big reveal episode. I'm glad that I'm not going to be watching the next 2 episodes, but I for sure will come back and watch season 3.
Okay. Probably guess. I'm a bit better on it than you are, I think. Yeah, I still did not want to say love it. I'm not going to say it was his top tier Trek, but I quite liked it, and I quite like the bits I pointed out. I like the conversation that we had about the synthetic life. I liked how I got to go on that sort of journey about moving stars and nuclear waste storage. I quite liked all that. So even if an episode is not necessarily a good episode, I like when I can pull things out and it makes me think about it. And over the past few days, I have been able to turn some of these things over in my head. So I've enjoyed that. So for my rating IMDb, I would give it, I'm going to go 6.4.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's lower than I thought you were going to give it a 7.
No. So I guess, like, for me personally, I think a 7, not a good episode. That's like good. I would like pretty like to really watch. 6.4. That's what I'm going with. Now we need to find out what it actually is. So the actual IMDb rating for Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 8, Broken Pieces. Well. 7.8.
Bullshit.
That's actually a lot higher than I thought.
Bullshit. How many bots wrote that?
Well, it's got 4.3 thousand ratings on that. So that might be a case of that we've only seen that with 1 episode out of 10. When we do this podcast with an episode in the show, which is serialized, you do miss a lot of context. So you kind of have to like pick out what you can, and you just have to sort of accept you're going to be a bit fuzzy on the wider story. So maybe that is why you've got a 7.8.
I'd love to know what the subsequent episodes and surrounding episodes were, but that's for another time.
I'm not going to look because we might get those.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to look.
I'll look it up later, especially for season 3. I'd like to see what people think of the season 3, because it'd be weird to me if season 3 had a similar rating, but yet it seems to be more critically acclaimed.
Me and Jacob have been talking, and Jacob has actually had a really good time doing this podcast and was going to do 1 bonus episode, but Jacob, we've got a bit of time, and Jacob would like to do another one. So this bonus episode is going to be a 2-part bonus episode. So we're going to spin for another episode.
I just can't help torturing myself watching Star Trek Picard.
Well, maybe we'll get another one. Maybe we'll get season 1, episode 2. That'd be great. So we're going to roll for another one. First question, Jacob. What would you like to watch? What do you want to see?
Let's go TNG, Voyager, or DS9.
The classic answers.
Let's just go with these.
I think at a certain point in this podcast, I'm going to have to stop asking that question because that's just always going to be the answer, I think.
Well, Lower Decks as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Season 4 of Lower Decks would be the best one, because
good, yeah.
Look, if we roll Picard again, give my hopes up, and we roll Picard, damn it. Okay, but if we roll season 3, yes, let's go.
I keep eternally saying the original series. We've not had any yet on this podcast, and I really like it. And I really want to sort of show it to yourself or Tom, someone who's not seen it.
Let's see the episode where Kirk will fuck everything.
I mean, it happens a bit, but like less than you might think, actually. Okay, so now we're going to spin for the show to watch. We both sort of said what kind of things we would like to see and what we would not like to see. Okay, we're going to spin now. Captain Janeway.
Oh, I think I think it's Voyager.
It's definitely Voyager.
Now, very interesting.
Yeah.
So we span for Voyager.
Mm.
So now we have to roll from season 1 to season 7.
Yes.
And then you roll again for 24 episodes.
That's not even seasons. Some are 22, some 26.
Because Is this the first time you've had Voyager?
This is the first time I've had Voyager on this podcast, yeah. So I know what I want. I say, well,
what do you want? Oh, yeah, because this is the point. We can discuss which season do you want.
Yeah, what season? I want. I'm going to say one of the later seasons. So for whatever reason, I've started like Voyager rewatches a couple of times. But I only saw I got like season 2 or season 3. Whatever happens, haven't really carried on. So I've seen season 1, 2, and 3 quite a bit.
Mm.
I've not seen season 5, 6, 7 as much. Give me Janeway tangling with the Borg. Give me that.
Janeway tango with the Borg.
Tangling
with the Borg.
You know,
oh, that's most of it, though, right?
Not like the early season. It's all like the Kazon. And
I do agree with you. Definitely less of the earlier stuff. I think it was season. It's when they pick up 7 of 9, right? That's when it's more Borg. 4 onwards, right?
Yeah.
So 4 onwards is fine for me. It's always a bit weird going back and watching this because it's like 7 of 9 is the sexualized piece of the crew. Like, very skimpy outfits. Yeah. It's a bit weird.
It is, but it's very much like T'Pol on Enterprise. That they were brought on as to look good, and they do, but they both become really good, strong characters with really good, strong stories.
7 of 9 episodes are good.
They are pretty good. I have heard of complaints that there was actually probably a bit too much focus on 7 of 9 and the Doctor. I'm like, do you know what? Maybe. I love them both.
I mean, yeah, but like Dakota, he hasn't once.
He gets nothing.
Yeah, but he's more focused in the earlier seasons, right? Because it's more. There is more like
great.
Yeah, but there's also because there's that ship they were pursuing, and they were then in the sector with them, and then there's kind of
Anyway, let's roll for it. Let's roll for it. So 1 out of 7.
So we want later seasons both. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we get season 1. Let's see how this goes for us.
Okay.
Season 4.
Season 4.
So
not bad.
We will have 7, I assume. Okay, in season 4 Voyager, there are 26 episodes.
It's a long season.
It's a long season.
There's 2-parters.
It's probably...
There's 2 2-parters.
Probably a few 2-parters. So I forgot to mention it at the top. Yeah, obviously, our rules are if we land on a 2-parter, we will watch both parts. Middle of the story arc, we would not watch the whole thing, but we probably won't get that of Voyager. So, if we hear an episode we've already watched before, we will flip a coin, but that won't happen. So, do you remember many things from season 4?
So, I don't remember if these are season 4. Isn't the episode where they take the ship beyond
Threshold
10? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That one, I'm not particularly a fan.
Threshold, yeah.
Isn't there a Q episode?
He does make a few appearances. I don't know. I couldn't say when.
Is it the child? With his child.
Yeah.
Now, is there not an episode where they finally contact Earth via the Doctor on that special ship?
That's a good one.
That one I really like, and I
think
think it's in the middle, so I can't remember. So that one would be my top one.
Yeah. There's only one way to find out, and that is by spinning a thing.
Let's spin the wheel! Oh, shit.
Well, it's episode 3. How
super early on.
That's okay.
I was saying shit because it was getting closer to 1, and 1 might be like a continuation of the previous season.
Well, actually, it would have been. Episode 1 would have been Scorpion Part 2, so we would have watched Part 1 and Part 2.
So we got Day of Honor.
We have got Day of Honor. Right, let me just read a quick synopsis. B'Elanna tries to observe the Klingon Day of Honor after the warp core is lost. Remember this one? I don't remember this at all. I could not tell you a single thing about this episode.
Belina Torres episode.
Yeah, sure, it's pretty good. Her character definitely builds up and gets stronger. I do quite like when her and Paris get together, so maybe we have a little bit of that. Maybe he's involved a bit here.
Do they get together in the end?
They do. They get a kid.
So maybe this is one of the first.
Yeah, so that'd be really cool. Fantastic. So we're going to go away and watch some Voyager, Season 4, Episode 3, Day of Honor. Please join us again next time for another bonus episode, so I guess a bonus part 2. We'll have Jacob back, Yeah, thank you very much for listening to Warp Factor Unknown today. We'll see you again next time. If you'd like to contact us, please email us at warpfactorunknown@outlook.com. That again is warpfactorunknown@outlook.com. The music we've been using for these episodes is called Starfleet Command by Jeff Harvey, and you can find more of his work on pixabay.com.